First time in a long time, we are the Fenway Rundown. It's like a band entry. I'm Chris Cotillo, Sean McAdam, on location in Milwaukee. You see the hotel backdrop. I didn't get to go to beautiful Wisconsin this time of year. I will be in Atlanta this weekend. Sean, I have said on this show multiple times in the last few weeks, the last couple months, that there are slow days and very newsy days on this job. And there are times where it feels like the newsy days pile up. There are times with the Red Sox, especially the last couple off seasons, not this last one, felt like the slow days have piled up. But once again, it has been haymaker after haymaker of big news since basically the winter meetings with this team. There was a lull there, but since the season started, at least, a ton of news. And of course, I took the weekend series against the Baltimore Orioles off. I had some friends in town to play some golf. I shot about 200 on Pine Hills in Plymouth. And
How
once
was the
again,
second round?
yeah, it was great. A dollar a stroke too. Um, all hell broke loose at Fenway Park. You were there Friday for what was supposed to be a doubleheader and what wasn't. Chris Smith had us covered on Saturday and Sunday, and there was a lot that went on, of course, when it comes to the Red Sox infield. So, if you've been under a rock or shooting 200, you might have learned that Alex Bregman is out for a while. Marcelo Mayer is indeed up in the majors, has a couple of hits already. And the Red Sox, once again, spinning their wheels. They went on a nice little run there with 2 out of 3 out of the against the Mets. And then winning two against Baltimore to start that series. Now losers of three in a row as we sit here heading into the second game in Milwaukee, 27 and 29, 7.5 games back in the East, 10 and 14 in May, 2.5 back of a wild card spot, 6 and 6 in Garrett Crochet's starts. And as mid gets, as both Alex Cora and Rob Refsnyder have mentioned, talking big picture in the last few days. So we have a lot to get to. Of course, first podcast in almost a week, but we will start with Alex Bregman and Marcelo Mayer. I know I've been blabbing now for 3 minutes, but I'm going to give my thoughts first. This is, I think, when you look at it, probably out a couple months. He was out 10 weeks with a very similar injury 4 years ago when he was 4 years younger. People forget that. You can't equate the two. This is not just like surface level bad, and that probably your best bat outside of Devers, your best right-handed bat, is going to be out for a while, and a stabilizing presence at third. But it screws a lot up. You call up Meyer to play a position that you would not have called him up to play in a normal situation. And it also extends the leash for Story, who's been struggling now for 6 weeks, and for Kristian Campbell, who, let's face it, this was an unbelievable story in April, and they knew he was going to have struggles at some point. But if this continues, they might want to give him a breather at AAA. I mean, I think there's no way around that at this point. An easy way to do that would be installing Meyer at second. I know they try and Campbell at first. But this Bregman thing kind of just ruins pretty much every plan they had laid out, every contingency plan. Now it's Meyer at third, not much in the way of middle infield options to back up the struggling guys. It's, I think, as bad of an injury as they possibly could have had at this point. Maybe Crochet's the other, but this is really, 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 really damaging for their chances in the short and long term here.
Yep, no question. And we just got through talking about Crochet, as you mentioned, as terrific as he's been, and he's got an ERA of 2.04. He is among the league leaders in innings pitched and strikeouts. Any measure has been exactly who the Red Sox wanted him to be and who
Probably
they
a little
thought
better.
could be. And yet they are 6 and 6 in his dozen starts, even though in 10 of those, he's allowed 2 runs or fewer. I mean, they should be 8-4, 9-3 in that stretch.
Yep.
They somehow are a 500 team with one of the handful of best starting pitchers starting for them. But the Bregman news and loss is catastrophic in baseball terms. You're right. It affects them everywhere. It affects their infield makeup and defense. It affects their lineup balance. Remember, he was the right-handed bat that was going to even things out a little bit, and it affects them from a off the field leadership standpoint where he's not going to be around as much, and even if he were to be around, he doesn't have the same impact when he's not in the lineup. So it hurts them in every conceivable way. I can't think of a bigger loss that they could suffer. Certainly losing Devers' bat would be huge. But think about the impact on Devers and what that means with Bregman out of the lineup. Devers was already leading for a while, at least, the American League in walks. What's going to happen with no protection behind him? I mean, yesterday we all loved the Carlos Narvaez story, but who had Carlos Narvaez as their number three hitter on Memorial Day?
Yep.
Not I, and I don't think that too many other people had that coming either. And it just shows how that lineup now takes a precipitous drop after the first three or four spots. Uh, they're in the middle of trying to adjust how they approach offensively, where they're going to have to do more small ball, more putting runners in motion, moving guys over, bunting a little bit, all the things that were not supposed to be a worry and weren't a worry when this team was a top five offense. Now, Bregman being out, the uncertainty of who's going to be playing first base, the fact that you're rotating journeymen in and out of that position, whether it be Sogard or Toro or whoever is playing there, Romy Gonzalez when he comes back. Uh, we're guilty, Chris, I think sometimes of using the phrase inflection point too often. To me, this week feels pretty critical to them that it could be a free fall here. They are uncertain as we record this of who's starting on Tuesday night. They've got three games coming up in Atlanta against a Braves team that has found itself. Even the Angels are playing better when they come in next week, and then it's off to New York to play the Yankees. It does not get any easier, and the future does not look any brighter right now.
Yeah, that is the dour Sean McAdam on a Tuesday Fenway rundown. I just think, going back to my earlier point, you look at the Bregman thing, and you know, Xander Bogaerts came up as a third baseman in 2013, ended up being a shortstop for a very long time. These types of things have happened. Guys come up in emergency positions, emergency situations. But consider how the Red Sox slow play these guys and how, well, he was blocked. And now, I think for somebody you've been super careful with, calling him up to play an unfamiliar position in between games of a doubleheader on short notice probably wasn't the perfect solution, but he does seem by all accounts ready to be here. So no knock on him. I think the bigger impact is we all saw how this was going to play out. Bregman stays at third, Story stays at short for now, and we'll get more of that. Campbell was going to move pretty much to first and be the everyday first baseman, and Mayer was going to come in and slot in at second, or maybe go to short and have Story have a reduced role at second, something like that. Now that's all screwed up. I mean, it really is completely. It felt like they had not their first solution, obviously because of the Rafi element, but a solution at first base, and now that's not going to come to fruition. So what is it going to be? Romy Gonzalez and Abraham Toro platooning at first. At second, I guess Campbell and David Hamilton as your options. At short, Trevor Story, who again hasn't hit in 6 weeks, and then Mayer learning the position at third base. It's kind of like DEFCON levels of screwed up almost when you look at that infield mix. Not to mention some of the struggles otherwise on the roster, but you looked at. I think we talked a lot about the lack of first base depth behind Casas. When you look at lack of third base depth, if once you rule Rafi out of that equation, it does kind of get tricky, right? And I
You're
think
moving middle infielders over there to try to play third, whether that be Sogard, whether that be Hamilton,
right.
whatever options. Mayer, who's played a little bit of it in the minors, and I think is a good enough athlete, as you said, to handle wherever you throw him out there. But it's far from perfect, and it's not what they imagined.
Right. I just it's tough to see now down your two corner infielders, two middle of the order impact bats. I know Casas wasn't hitting before going down, but it is as you said, quite the difference between what we thought it was going to look like at this point and what it truly does. The question of Roman Anthony is a big one still. Um, I don't know, still where he fits in the outfield. Like the problem positionally is still there. Duran is in left. He's an everyday staple. Wilyer Abreu is in right. He's truly an everyday staple. He's a good player. We've seen that play out now over the course of parts of 3 seasons. Rafaela, in center. I think the last couple weeks have opened up the door to them finally making this Roman Anthony decision. You look at what Rafael has done at the plate. Obviously, you wrote about some things a couple weeks ago. People didn't like it, frustrations about his free swinging ways. Cora had some comments, kind of saying like the coaching staff needs to make sure he doesn't get off track again with the aggressiveness. I think he's riding a 1 for 22, a 1 for 25, something like that. And we could see him maybe mixing in the infield, which is not by any means perfect for the Red Sox, but something we might see. And I just feel like, desperate times call for desperate measures, especially offensively. And therefore, they might be forced to just call Anthony up, say, you're going to play, maybe in left every day. Duran's going to play in center. Rafaela, you're being unplugged. Hard to know when that's going to come. I think people are clamoring for it right now on a need basis, offensively more than anything. But, at this point, what do you have to lose, right?
Well, I would say what you have to lose is you're going to downgrade yourself defensively in a few places. If you take Raphael out of center field and you either turn him into utility guy or maybe an everyday player in the infield, whether that be at second, whether that be at third or short, you're still dealing with his offensive shortcomings. But now instead of having him in center, you have Duran, and that's a drop off. He's not a below average center fielder, but he's probably
He's pretty good last year when he was in there.
a tick above league average in center field. He is not as good as Ceddanne Rafaela in
Hmm.
center. And then, where is Roman Anthony defensively? Probably an area of his game that still has to grow a little bit. Maybe having him play left field in Fenway, other than some of the tricky stuff with the wall. You're not giving him a lot of space to patrol. He could probably handle that okay. But then if you're playing Rafael in the infield, you still have his bat, which is an issue, while you have hurt yourself defensively in center field by inserting Duran there. So while it does it does deliver Roman Anthony, which is what a lot of people want. I would caution against knowing what that's going to result in. And as Marcelo Mayer has not looked overmatched up here in the 3 games that he's played. He's got 3 hits. He's had some decent at bats, but there's going to be growing pains, just like there was eventually for Kristian Campbell, and like there are going to be eventually when he's introduced into the lineup, Roman Anthony. So the notion that you have, 2 top 10 prospects in the game and plug them in and watch them take off, I think is naive. It may be interesting and it may compel more people to watch because they want to see what these guys are capable of. But as I've written several times, the notion that these guys are going to arrive and save the season is misplaced. It
Right.
doesn't happen with rookies, or it doesn't last when it does.
Yeah, I mean, I think the counter argument, and I agree fully with that point, is that, there are going to be growing pains for these guys in the major leagues anyway. When your team needs a jolt, as you've written about and talked about, they're already 2/3 of the way there. Like, why not? If he gets hot, carries them for a week like some guys do in their debut, and Anthony, great. Anthony and Meyer together, the future looks bright, all this stuff. Bridge the gap to when you're more toward full strength with Bregman, some of these other guys. I don't know. I think that there's something to be said for that. And like I said, these growing pains are going to happen at some point. We've seen it with everybody, including Kristian Campbell, who we'll get to now. So he had a 902 OPS as we entered May. He then missed a couple days with a rib issue. He was moved to the number 4 spot in the lineup. He started learning first base shortly thereafter, and the numbers are atrocious over 18 May games. He is 8 for 71. There is 1 homer, the one in Detroit, 4 RBIs, 4 walks, and 21 strikeouts, which for a guy with his plate approach is kind of unusual. In the first part of the season before that, he had 32 strikeouts and 19 walks. So I think those ratios kind of tell the big story. Hitting 301, all that stuff. I know he's been dropped to the 8 spot here and there. Um, I know that he's batting back, in the middle of the lineup the last couple days out of need. I brought this up at the beginning, and this would have been unthinkable to talk about a month ago, unthinkable to talk about 2 months ago when he made the team and they were excited about him being the everyday second baseman. Any chance he goes down?
I think everything has to be on the table here. I would be a little surprised if it happened because um, it would interrupt whatever work he's doing to get acclimated at first base. Presumably, he could still work on that in Worcester while also seeing if he can get straightened out at the plate. Um, but then all of a sudden you're playing David Hamilton every day at second base, presumably. You're alternating Sogard and Toro at first. I mean, you've got a right side of the infield that is full of kind of journeyman guys and a rookie with a handful of games playing at third and a struggling veteran going through the worst stretch of his career at short. Other than that, the infield looks tip top.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, the David Hamilton thing, we've talked about that previously on the show. I just, you know, do you ride him at Sogard or do you ride Rafaela at second? Like, again, you said everything's on the table. And this is part of what I was just talking about, how Bregman goes out, Mayer goes to third. You can't just, pull up Mayer and say, Campbell and Mayer, you're switching spots. That's out of the mix. And that might have been a little while ago. I'm trying to pull up some Trevor Story numbers here. Let's see where they really take a dive. I believe it's April 22nd was the line of demarcation where he started struggling. His OPS that day was 847. It's 594 now. So the numbers are as such: 15 for 114, one double, one home run, and six RBIs.
Off a position. The double was off a position player.
Right, and the home run was in garbage time at
So
Kansas
he,
City.
he's got one extra base hit against a major league pitcher in 5 weeks.
That's right. And there are seven walks and 40 strikeouts, a 132 average, a 195 on base percentage, and a 362 OPS in now a 29 game stretch. The defense has, taken a tiny bit of a step back. This is a guy who came out super hot. We were talking on the show about will he opt out at the end of the season? I don't think he will. Will the Red Sox opt out? I think is the bigger question. You hate to see a guy who's a good guy and a good clubhouse leader, someone you and I both really like, be in DFA territory. I think without the Bregman injury and with Meyer pushing, uh, I wouldn't see them going another month of this. Now, again, I think the leash is extended even more.
Yeah, I just don't see them swallowing what would be, more than $60 million at this point. You've got 2 years at 25 million left that are guaranteed in 26 and 27. I think you've got a buyout for 28 for a few more million. You've got the rest, essentially two-thirds of the money due him this year. So we're looking at close to $70 million. And I don't see them pulling the plug yet. They're hopeful that he can figure some things out. They can, even if his range is diminished and his arm isn't what it once was, he's at least league average at short, doesn't make a lot of errors, maybe doesn't get to as many as you'd like, but is going to make the routine plays. So defensively, he's not killing them, but offensively, he is. When you go, almost 30 games and actually have one extra legitimate extra base hit, that's about, we're talking pre-DH pitcher level of ineptitude at the plate for a guy who was once a 25 to
And
30 home
and
run.
and for a team that needs to put the ball in play, the strikeout numbers are outrageous too.
Right.
I mean, you're right. It's just like, they tried to unplug him. That lasted about a day. Came back yesterday, didn't hit again. It's a very tough situation to navigate.
Yeah, and it's especially tough, I think, for the Red Sox and Alex Cora because of how Story is regarded within that clubhouse. He is very much respected, kind of not a fiery guy, but a quiet professional who goes about it the right way, who works hard at it, who tries to be inclusive with the younger guys, with the camp he runs in the off season, kind of an early pre-spring training bonding thing with other infielders to get acclimated. He's done all the right things, and yet it's painful sometimes watching these at bats.
Yep. And so that will be a storyline as we move along. Let's talk big picture. Obviously, the offense has, I think, been the story. of the season. I think if you look at the pitching staff at large, and I've talked about the issues with the rotation, Bayo and Hauk and largely, Giolito have underperformed, other than Saturday when he was great, and a couple other good starts. He's been up and
Yeah, I
down.
mean,
I mean,
Giolito's been like unpredictable.
right.
It's either been really good and encouraging, or will he make his next start? And there's
Yeah.
no in between.
Well, okay, let's say Bayo and Hauk then, and some other guys here and there have underperformed, probably Whitlock a little bit, but generally the pitching staff as a whole has kind of kept it together, including I think the Crochet numbers you just talked about. Offensively, even at full strength, this team wasn't fully clicking. Runners in scoring position, some dry spells early. Now with a lineup where you're relying, as you said, on Narvaez in the middle there. Story's not hitting. You're relying on Abraham Toro, who actually had a good weekend and has an okay OPS, and Rafaela and rookies and all these guys. You know the story. I think Rob Refsnyder told that story very well yesterday. We still lost. I don't really care. It's frustrating. I'm tired of losing. I'm tired of losing close games. We just need to figure it out and win some games. Bottom line, there's some good at bats here and there, but we're not getting the job done. It's not for lack of effort or lack of work ethic or game planning. We suck right now. We've just got to be better. And then I think you asked the question, if they needed to start playing small ball. And he said, if we want to keep losing and make excuses, we can. We're all big leaguers. We're all in the minor leagues. We know how to do the small things. Um, there's a lot of talent here and promise. Right now, it's just about execution from me to everyone. We just have to play better. They were pretty pointed. They were pretty strong comments. I think, Ref Snyder's a guy that, is one of the better quotes on the team, one of the more insightful guys. And it seemed like it was a pointed, I'm going to call these guys out because we got to figure something out now type of thing.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that he was as blunt as he was, saying we suck, we're not getting the job done. There are no excuses. The question that I had asked was, does it take a little time to change your approach, to go from a team that's kind of a slug first and the ability to have big innings to one that has to play small ball and move runners and all the little things? And to his credit, he wasn't hiding behind that as an excuse. Like we've done those things. If that's what we're supposed to be doing, we should be able to go out and do them right away. There shouldn't be some transition period. I think it's natural to think that they may struggle a little bit as they go up and have a different objective at the plate. But he wasn't having any of it, and it was clear that the frustration was boiling over for him. And he's a pretty sober, rational, usually pretty optimistic guy. And he didn't sound like any of those things yesterday after the loss to the Brewers.
And what do you think about how Alex Cora has kind of handled everything and his responses to similar questions and his demeanor the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think he's trying to buck the guys up a little bit. I don't, while acknowledging that there are issues that have to get better. I think he's mindful that if he comes out and issues some sort of ultimatum or says, we got to win three of the next four, or we got to have a winning road trip, uh, then that puts a little pressure on them. Maybe there'll come a time where that's the approach he has to take, where he's got to get in their face, where he's got to get a little loud, where he has to challenge them. I think for now, he's trying to evince the no panic here, going through a rough stretch, dealing with some injuries, integrating some rookie players, having guys play out of position. Got to be patient, but I wonder how long he can afford to keep that approach up.
Yeah, especially when you have, on the team and contributing like what, five, six, or four, five, six true rookies. It's kind of a tough message to send to those guys who are learning their way. Obviously, Mayer and Campbell, Narvaez as well. Dobbins, there's going to be somebody else I'm thinking about. I mean, you can count, the Sogards of the world and the young players like Hamilton and Willier and Rafaela, those types of guys. They've been around a little bit now and they've been through struggles. But I think with the younger team, with Mayer and Campbell, to call a group that includes those guys out, it is tough at this point. Tonight will be interesting. We still don't know who the starter is going to be. Um, a team that never rushes anyone back from injury might have to do that out of absolute necessity with Richard Fitz tonight, which is, I think, more of a scheduling thing than an indictment on where the pitching stands because they do actually have some rotation depth. At this point, we have no word on if that's happening.
Nothing yet. Alex Spear of the Globe reported that Zach Kelly was optioned after the game last night. That means some move is being made. Is that to make room for a plug and play for Fitz, or is that another reliever and they go at it with a bullpen game? One positive is that other than Whitlock, who got 4 outs yesterday, they gave the entire bullpen the day off. So if they have to use 5 guys to get through 9 innings tonight, they would seem to be in good position to do that. They do have the day off Thursday, which will help. So they can kind of go balls to the wall here tonight and Wednesday afternoon and use the bullpen aggressively, knowing that they have a day off Thursday. But it will either be Fitz as a continuation of his rehab, which would actually be continuing at the major league level, or they'll piece it together with a bullpen game. The problem is, as I wrote, Sean Newcomb's gone, a bulk guy. They really don't have anybody, particularly with Whitlock pitching yesterday. He'll need a day today, so he's not part of the mix. Who do they have that could give them even 2 innings or more than
Bernardino.
2 innings out of the bullpen? My guess is, and it's only that, is that it's Fitz.
Yeah. And you know what? This is not the fault of the Red Sox. It's not the fault of anybody because a lot of the weather stuff had to deal with it. The schedule this week is like really as bad as it gets too, with, Thursday washed out, Friday nightcap washed out, Saturday doubleheader, 2 close games, Sunday day game, Monday day game on Memorial Day, night game tonight, day game tomorrow. It's bizarre. And it's like, not a lot of sleep for the wary. That's why you and I had most of the weekend off, right? But not today on the Fenway Rundown. We'll be back later in the week with another one. Stay tuned.